I'm a member of the alt-right. Forgive me, I'm quite nervous here. This is sort of the first time I'm doing this.
Well, thank you for calling. No, I'm interested in hearing why you're a member of the alt-right.
I think it gets painted in a bit of, well, obviously I won't deny that there are people who generally do not like people of other ethnicities. There are obviously extremes in the group. I think, generally speaking, I don't tend to associate myself. I wouldn't associate myself with Nazis or supremacists in that sense. I think there are genuine people who have interesting ideas, and I listen to them. Like YouTubers mostly. I know there's a big sort of crackdown going on censorship and this type of thing.
On YouTube?
Yes, there's sort of a general sense of, from what I've seen, of censorship in the sense of, well, we don't want these views, even if they go against what our ideals are. We sort of don't want to hear them.
Which kind of views?
Generally speaking, views on sort of multiculturalism, diversity, the future we're heading in.
Okay, let me unpick a little of what you've said. You don't associate yourself with Nazism or white supremacists. Yeah. You said. Do you associate with white supremacists? If you see what I mean, because there's a difference between associating yourself with them and actually spending time with them.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think I would consider myself more of an identitarian or white nationalist. I would say that we are sort of generally interested in sort of, different ideas. There are some good YouTube, such as the ideas of cultural Marxism and nihilism and globalism, and generally the decline in the native ethnic group of British people.
So so just for people who aren't familiar with the words identitarian movement, it began in France, I think, in the early 2000s, didn't it? The New Right, it called itself. So you believe in white Western Europe? Would that be fair?
I wouldn't say that would be fair. I'm not anti. I'm not anti people of another colour.
You just don't want them to live with you.
I would say, generally speaking, that if we're going to have multiculturalism, it should be in Asia and it should be in Africa as well, if you were going to spread it out equally. But it seems to be that it's only promoted in European countries.
But there are historical reasons for that, aren't there, linked to poverty, linked to empire?
Yes, well, that is obviously a case. But generally speaking, when you talk about, you can make the case about slavery. I don't deny the crimes of slavery. I would say that they also, with things like the Barbary pirates, these are, people blacks that have enslaved white Europeans. So I'm not condoning any slavery of any sort. I would just say that the way that the sort of decline in the ethnic makeup, and we see it gradually go down, the decline in whites in Britain, as has been shown, it seems like we're going to become a minority in the next sort of 50, 60 years.
Who told you that, Tom?
Well, it's generally...
Don't say a YouTuber.
No, I've seen it in news sources and news sites.
But what do you see with your own eyes in the streets and on the television and in drama and in the news? And what do you see around you? Do you see white people disappearing because of ethnic mixing?
I don't see literally
no, I know you don't see them disappearing, but because Britain still looks incredibly white to me.
Well, it's gradually declining, as we've seen from sort of as you can see from like census data, the amount of whites are declining. So if you'd say for like 2001, it would be about 87%, and it's gradually going down to 81. I think it is now, around about there. And it seems to just with the sort of propaganda of sort of everything's the white person's fault. It gradually.
Who says that?
It gradually seems to increase. Well, there are articles you see in The Guardian or The Independent, and time and time again, it's look at this white person. Well, they don't specifically say, this is what, individual is, or, this is our entire group, so rather this is an entire group is doing this.
What are you afraid of, Tom, if Britain becomes less white?
I'm afraid that we'll lose our culture. I generally am afraid that we'll lose. Well, generally, if another group takes hold, say another group from, say, North Africans.
But we're not one group, are we? The population of Britain, even just the white population of Britain, isn't one group, is it?
No, we consider it sort of white Europeans, obviously there are different groups within it, so the Italians, the French, and so on. Generally, we're concerned about our heritage, we're concerned about our identity. And
so can I ask you, looking at Charlottesville over the weekend, did you, and I'm genuinely interested, I'm so grateful that you've called, Tom, because you are the type of person, if you'll forgive the expression, that I was appealing to hear from, because I don't understand how you can look at Charlottesville and look at those KKK people, the people with the torches, the people with the angry faces, shouting about Jews and shouting about blacks and shouting about Muslims. I don't understand how anyone can look at them and have any political brotherhood or sisterhood with them. But you seem, and I'm not equating you directly with them, Tom, by any means. But you are saying that of those two groups, it seems to me, you actually have more of a political interest in the views of the Charlottesville marchers.
I have the views of the KKK or this type of
But they believe in white nationalism. They believe in keeping their nation white.
I agree. We would, but if you see the history of the KKK and they go around sort of lynching people and things, we're not interested in that.
Well, that's a relief.
Yes. Well.
But are you concerned though that I would be concerned if I had fraternity with those people?
I'm concerned in the sense that, the future we see sort of happening now is people from the far right, and you see groups like Antifa on the far left, and these sort of organizations that say they're for, they stand up against white nationalism or something, but they end up just usually causing violence. They go to these events to sort of cause violence to begin with. I know a lot of people will say, well, this is all about the far right, but I'm generally concerned about the far left as well.
Oh yeah, me too. And the far left will show up at events like that. Of course they will. But again, you have to look at the makeup of large numbers of the counter protesters to see that they weren't Antifa. And for people who might not know what that is, it's anti-fascist groups. It's become a kind of a conglomeration of leftist groups. Just a final thought, Tom. What would happen if you fell in love with a black woman or a brown person? What would happen?
Well, I personally, I wouldn't. It's not through. It's generally through my in-group preference that I would prefer to be, in love with somebody of my own group.
Your in-group preference. What does that mean?
Yes. Well, it generally means that people associate with people of their own. Not all the time, I grant you, because people can obviously have conversations and things like this with.
So people of their own. Shall I help you finish that sentence? Yeah. Their own colour is what you mean.
Yeah. No, I agree. People generally prefer to be in like a culture. This is the reason.
Well, you do.
Sort of we see. Well, yes.
But not everybody would be alarmed at the thought of falling in love with a black person.
Well, no. What I'm saying is that people generally prefer to be associated with people of their own race, and that's why they stick together in their own group.
Do you think you're a racist, Tom?
No, I don't think so.
I think you are.
I think generally that.
Tom, I think if you just balk at the idea of even imagining falling in love with somebody who's black, that makes you a racist.
I wouldn't say that. I'd say I prefer it's personal preference.
Yes, but what if your feelings surprised you?
I mean, you can be in love with them. Don't get me wrong, but that doesn't mean you have to, date them. You should. I generally believe you should stick to people of your own group.
Okay, thank you for your call, Tom.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.